What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another Bring the Juice Colts podcast live stream. Guys, we are bringing you some week 4 NFL preview action for the Indianapolis Colts versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we had to bring on our friend here who we had on last year, if you guys were around for that time, Dan from Steel Twins, co-host of the Steeler Culture podcast. Dan, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm feeling great. We appreciate you guys always having us on. I am flying solo. My twin, my brother in crime, won't be joining us today, but we still appreciate you guys always reaching out. Last year was so much fun. Like we stated before we went live, the result for the Steelers, on the other hand, wasn't as fun, but it's always great to be on, man. Appreciate you.
Absolutely, man. Well, before we get going here, guys, just want to say again, this stream is powered by BetUS, guys. If you're looking for a new sports book this off season and during this season together, look no further than BetUS. They got some of the best deals out there, and we're going to hit you guys with a promo here very shortly. But again, guys, be sure to like the stream as well. It helps it get out to more and more people. And be sure to comment in the comment section as well if you guys are tuning in. Be sure to subscribe, guys, if you haven't already. We're on the push for 20,000 subscribers. Very close, getting there. So we want to be able to have you guys help us out. But Dan, I mean, we got to talk about, I want to talk to you about how last year ended because, you know, when we talked the last time, you know, you guys had probably a much different feeling about how the season was going than how it actually ended up. Because when we beat you guys, the Colts were on the up and up, and they were looking to be fighting in the AFC South for a division title. And sure enough, the last game ended, we didn't win, and ultimately Houston ended up making it.
Right.
And you guys, what it looked like from you guys, your guys is saying you guys were almost accepting that the Pittsburgh Steelers season was practically over if you would have lost. And then sure enough, you win your last 2 games and every single piece worked out so that you made it to the playoffs. How did it feel to know, like, at the end of that season, you guys kept your winning record and still made it to the playoffs somehow with like a 2% chance? How did you feel about that?
It felt great, especially with the quarterback change. Right after the loss to the Colts, man, that was our 3rd straight loss, which we sat at 7-7 after that, I believe. That was thankfully our last loss in the regular season before we lost to the Bills in the playoffs. But at that time, we weren't expecting a quarterback change. We weren't expecting anything different than Mitch and Kenny at that point. Thankfully, we were all wrong. Our worst fears weren't reality, and we put in Mason, and he helped us reach the playoffs. And that end was very exciting to see the offense actually have some growth. They scored 30 points in back-to-back games after the last year's Colts loss, so it was a good vibe, it was a good energy. It definitely turned the tide. So yeah, I felt great about it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for the start of this season, I mean, I got to imagine that you guys can't possibly be much happier than what you are now. Obviously 3-0 coming into this matchup. It ain't always looked pretty for you guys, but a win's a win in the NFL, and you haven't yet lost. And you now look like you potentially have a quarterback, or at least a pair of quarterbacks that looks like you can at least go out there and at least win some football games with. Without going into too much detail, how are you feeling about this 3-0 start for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and, you know, how Justin Fields and everybody is doing out there right now?
It feels really good. This is our first 3-0 start since 2020. A lot of Steelers fans know how that eventually ended, but 3-0, it feels good because our defense is as advertised. They are living up to the highest paid defense title in the league. They're playing lights out. They're playing old school Steelers football. The offense, I feel like they're getting better week after week. They're starting to get comfortable in the Arthur Smith's system. Justin Fields, I feel like, is really starting to cook. And I feel like we're starting to hit the tip of the iceberg. And without going into too much, because I know you got more to to discuss and talk about. But I feel like this offense, they've been hinting about the dam is about to break. I feel very confident in saying that. And I haven't been able to say that about the Steelers offense in years.
All right. Well, I mean, there's definitely going to be some interesting conversations here about this Steelers offense. But again, guys, before we get any further, want to say again, this stream is powered by BetUS. If you guys are looking for a sports book this season, look no further than BetUS. And we are actually going to have Dan here help us with a little bit of a bet here that we'll have. And while my BetUS is actually loading up here, I will go ahead and put this graphic up on the screen for you guys. Again, if you guys are wanting to sign up today, the first deposit, it's a 150% sign up bonus up to $2,000 on your first deposit. And then your next two deposits are 125%. All you need to do is use the promo code YouTube150, and you guys can go and get that set up today. So again, guys, be sure to check out BetUS. And again, as we're just letting this come in here, I'm going to put my screen up here for you guys to see. So for those that can't see it very well, right now, Dan, the Colts on BetUS right now are a +1 underdog at home against the Steelers. The record isn't really saying much. They expect this game to be a very close one, as it has been for pretty much all of the games for all three games of each of these teams' matchups so far. So obviously, this is the Colts channel. We're going to go ahead and hit up that +1. We obviously want to go ahead and predict that the Colts will win on this matchup, but we are going to ask for your help here on a over under. So while this thing continues to load up here, the over under as it stands right now, Dan, is at 40. So what are you thinking here? Are we thinking under on 40 points, or are we thinking an over here?
I'll be real with you. I'm going to go with the under only because the Steelers defense is allowing currently 8.7 points per game. And I do acknowledge the Colts and Richardson are explosive. So perhaps the Steelers have something that they're going to go up against that they don't, but I still like the odds of it being under. And the Steelers offense, to me, yet hasn't been fully proven. So I'm going to go with the under here if I were you. For anyone that is a gambling man like us two here, I would bet the under. I just feel like that's a safe route just because the Steelers offense I'm not 100% with them yet. And I think the Steelers defense is just too strong. So I'd go with the under.
You know, I'll probably go with that too. It stinks because I was very close to winning the bet on the under for last week's game for the Colts. I had it set at a 34 and it ended up being a 37 just because Chicago scored a touchdown on that last drive, which does definitely stink. But, you know, it is what it is. I do agree. I will go with an under there for this game. Both of these teams' offenses are not very high prolific offenses right now. So that definitely makes a lot of sense. But again, guys, be sure to check out BetUS today. John, Derek, I have a question. Why Ruben be hating on you on the roundtable, bro? He just like that. This because that's who he is, man. It's no harm, no foul. Him and I jaw at each other all the time, and you know it's all in good fun. It's not anything more than that. So don't worry, it's not a big deal. It's all for the sake of content. But we'll go ahead here and hop into yeah, I'm going to actually finish this bet up real quick. Place that. There we go. All right. So with this game, I do want to talk first about your offense here, man, because I know that a lot of people are putting a lot of emphasis on your offense. And, you know, everyone's talking about Justin Fields because that's the storyline, right? Justin Fields hasn't looked great in Chicago. Chicago's wanting to push him out. He was the fall guy for why the Chicago Bears offense looked as bad as it did, right?
Right.
And now the Bears offense is still trash. We saw that last Sunday for the Colts, and Justin Fields now, albeit isn't setting the world on fire, but it's complimentary enough that it's not costing you games, and therefore it's keeping you guys on the winning track. But I mean, I will say, man, only 518 passing yards. I love the completion percentage. Clearly, Justin Fields is completing passes at a very good rate, which a lot of people did not anticipate from Justin Fields. But I don't really think that the offense has been opened up for anything, because, I mean, he's averaging, I mean, and quite frank, I think he's averaging less yards, or about the same yards per game right now as Anthony Richardson is. Anthony Richardson is in no way as accurate as Justin Fields is right now, and only 2 passing touchdowns on the year so far. It's just the Pittsburgh way, it feels like, to just not have a lot of high scoring offenses, but still find a way to win these games. I mean, truthfully, for Justin Fields, I mean, I got to imagine you feel much better about it than your previous situation, but I mean, does it really feel like you can keep sustaining this level of play from Justin and still win all these games?
Yes. Week by week, I can sense he's getting comfortable. He's getting better. His accuracy absolutely is getting better. It's not going to show up on the stat sheet, but last week versus the Chargers, he was throwing some zingers. He was throwing some lasers. And unfortunately, there were a couple drops that won't be added to the stat sheet, that won't be seen in the highlight reel. But what I've seen from Fields the last 3 weeks is week 1, you know, he kind of looked similar to how he did in Chicago. Week 2, he looked a lot more comfortable. He started taking more chances. And week 3, it was just that, but above some. Fields, I feel like we can definitely sustain a very good offense. And I can only sense that they're getting better. They're getting more comfortable. And they're only going to start really gravitating to Arthur Smith's system. And I think Justin Fields is perfect for that. I'm really loving what he's bringing to the table. And a big factor of him is he's really limiting the turnovers, which was one of his biggest negatives in Chicago, is his fumbles, his turnovers, his decision-making. All that has been a plus. And I think a lot of that has to do with coaching. A lot of that has to do with Russell Wilson being on the bench or being hurt, and him learning from a guy like him, someone has a high football IQ. Like, you couldn't ask for a better surround system for Justin Fields right now. And I feel like he's playing some really good football. I don't think he's hit the tip of the iceberg yet.
Now, I mean, on the Russell Wilson thing real quick, before we move into my offense for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So if Mike Tomlin has already said that, like, he is not guaranteeing Justin Fields a spot yet. My personal take is I think he wants to see Justin Fields do more in order to keep this position. Especially since you're paying a decent amount of money to have Russell Wilson sitting on the bench. Do you think Justin Fields keeps this spot, or do you think that Russell Wilson inevitably beats him out for it?
If Justin Fields keeps playing the way he's doing and goes above and beyond and continues to improve, I don't see how you can't turn away from Fields. I don't see how you can take him off the field. Russell Wilson, listen, it's just a business decision. You know, he's a vet, and they're paying him. I think it's the vet minimum, but it's just one of those things you got to go with the hot hand. And if Fields is doing so well and he's leading this offense to victories, and hopefully, may I please ask for more touchdowns, why would you put Fields on the bench? Why would you take him off the field for a hurt quarterback, an aging quarterback that's not as mobile? He might be smarter between the ears, which kind of gets me intrigued in what he could offer in that aspect of the offense. But I don't see why you would take Fields off the field, man.
Absolutely. CH watching from Florida as the hurricane is passing over. Goodness gracious. Well, hey, listen, stay. I'm also watching from windy Florida, moving at like 25 mile an hour. It's booking. Well, y'all stay safe down there. All right. I saw a lot of bad stuff happening with that. So yeah, make sure y'all stay careful down there. Yeah, and Justin Fields, I mean, obviously his ability to take it off and run with it is also another aspect to his game. Hasn't really utilized that much yet in this season, but it's definitely something he has in his back pocket. That's the one thing I'm worried about most facing Justin Fields in this defense. Not really his passing. It's more has to do with, keeping contain of that, because the Colts have had not so easy of a time doing that right now. So, that'll definitely be interesting. But I want to move over to Anthony Richardson now. First game, accuracy wasn't great, but he made some plays that just wowed you. And then in the last few weeks, he has struggled. He has very much struggled. His accuracy is all over the place. Gotta hope that at some point he starts putting it together. I don't know if it'll be this week, but I gotta hope at some point during the season he starts becoming more accurate and starts hitting those passes there. But what do you think about when you see Anthony Richardson? What comes to mind when it comes to Anthony Richardson?
First and foremost, it's his arm. The arm talent is unbelievable. It is there. When he is on, he's on. One thing I've noticed about the Colts offense, outside of Richardson's mistakes, he loves to air it out, and he's got the targets to do it. Alec Pierce is a deep threat. A.D. Mitchell is a deep threat. I've noticed there's not been too many completions towards him down there, but the targets and the attempts are there. We know Pittman's underrated. His arm talent is freakish, and I feel like the Steelers defense is going to be tested in that area, because when Richardson really zones in and he's locked in, I feel like he can be a really accurate passer. That's his problem, though, is inconsistency and his decision making. He's thrown at least one pick every single game this season. The Steelers have so far gotten 6 interceptions, I believe, through the first 3 weeks, and they didn't even have a pick last week. So this is a defense that can force turnovers. This is a defense that can get pressure. Richardson is innovative. He's mobile. He's a dual threat. And I think having a quarterback like Justin Fields in our system is going to help us study and prepare for a guy like Richardson. Also, having a guy like Lamar Jackson in the division twice a year, that helps us prepare for someone like Richardson. But I'd say the same thing for your Colts in regards to Fields. You guys, they're kind of model quarterbacks. They're one and the same, just Richardson's a little bigger. Those are guys that they can easily model. Those are guys they can easily game plan against, because they already have said guy in their system. So with that aspect, Richardson, if we can get to him, if we can pressure him and force the mistakes, I love our chances. Otherwise, if we let him have time in the pocket, if he's able to make his reads, if he is on his A game on Sunday, our secondary could be tested. And this is a strong secondary.
Yeah, y'all got a strong secondary. I mean, hell, you got a freaking strong defense as is. And it was 4 interceptions on the year for you guys so far.
Oh, 4?
Just looking at the stats right now, yeah, it's 4 of them. Yeah, and TJ Watt already having 3 sacks on the year. Heard Highsmith is going to be out for this game. Is that true, or are they still testing the waters?
Yes, Highsmith is hurt, and I do acknowledge I did mix up Richardson's interceptions and the Steelers' interceptions. The Steelers.
It's all good.
Yeah, but yeah, Highsmith will be out with a groin injury. He'll be out a couple weeks. It sucks, but I'll tell you right now, in Steeler Nation, if anyone's watching, you guys can attest to this. Not a single one of us are worried, because we have TJ Watt 2.0 opposite of him. His name is Nick Herbig. He's undersized. He's a 4th-round pick out of Wisconsin last year, another Wisconsin Badger. He had 2 sacks in relief or in replacing Highsmith last week. And this is a guy that had 3 sacks last year in very limited time. This is a guy that needs as much playing time as he can get, because he's so explosive. He's so quick off the edge. He's got a nose for sacking the quarterback. He is a pocket disruptor. He's just one of those guys, very TJ Watt-esque. Like, I'm very excited to see what Nick Herbig could do in his first start. So with Highsmith out, I'm not that concerned, because we have incredible depth.
Yeah, I keep seeing my chat saying basically whoever wins the trenches is going to ultimately win this game. And, that had a lot to do with what happened last year as well. And we're about to get into that right now. The run game for both of these teams. I mean, for Pittsburgh, I mean, it's not been anything too crazy. Najee Harris, 55 carries, 210 yards, averaging almost 4 yards a carry. It's pretty solid. But the only rushing touchdown coming off of Justin Fields' legs so far hasn't been anything from you guys yet. But I mean, again, for the Colts offense, that has been the bread and butter especially Jonathan Taylor, back-to-back 100-plus yard games against a good front in Green Bay and also a really good front in Chicago. We'll get to your rushing attack here first. How confident are you in being able to run the football? Because, again, the Colts defense, I don't know if you saw how bad it was for the Colts in the first 2 weeks, but I'm going to blow your mind here for a second. In those first 2 games, they allowed 474 yards rushing in the first 2 games. Now, in the Chicago game, they allowed only 67. So they did figure it out, but Chicago's also insanely bad at running the football. I mean, you guys aren't necessarily world beaters at running the football, but you guys definitely have a better offensive line and a better running back group than they do. How do you feel about being able to run the football on this Indianapolis Colts front?
Yeah, one thing I noticed about the stats I looked up from the Colts defense is I believe they're one of 3 teams thus far to allow over 500 rushing yards from opposing offenses so far this season.
Yeah,
not good. That brings me joy. That brings me great confidence that Najee can have one of his best games on the ground. He'll be healthy. Jaylen Warren doesn't look like he'll be ready to go. He's got a knee injury. He hasn't participated all week, so he won't play. We got Cordero Patterson, a vet, to be the rotational piece, to be that third down receiving guy. That's no problem with us. He helped close the game out last week versus the Chargers. We got Fields' legs we can use. Maybe this is the game he uses it more than usual. But I feel very confident that our line can get a ground game going. I feel very confident Najee can get a ground game going. And we've been very good at running the ball. We've been a run-heavy team for many years now, ever since drafting Najee, ever since boosting this line every single year for the past couple of years. We're very run-heavy. So I think that's going to be the Steelers' bread and butter here. I think that's going to be their winning formula. And I got all the confidence in the world they can get a ground game going. I'm not trying to underestimate the Colts front 7, but losing Kwity Paye out for this game, potentially DeForest Buckner's on IR. Some of your linebackers are hurt. I know you drafted Latu in the first round, so he's got a big test this week. Our offensive line also has had a couple injuries, so I want to point that out. We have Broderick Jones starting at right tackle. Our first-round rookie, Fatanu, is out for the regular season. I don't know if Sayamala will be back, so we'll have some of the depth pieces start in his place. But Zach Frazier, our center, has been a stud, an absolute beast as a center, so I'm sure he's going to help open lanes and create some chances for the running backs. But as far as the running game goes for the Steelers, I like our chances, man. So the Colts, they're going to have to come in and lock in.
Well, it's funny because you don't even have to worry about offending Colts fans about a run defense. We already feel it. Like we don't have to worry about it. We see it for ourselves. Yeah, I was going to ask that about some key injuries for you guys. So saying a couple offensive linemen might be out.
Yeah, Sayamalu, Tomlin did note that he might be closer to playing because he suffered an injury during the preseason, I think. And we've had 7th round pick from last year, Spencer Anderson, start. We got Mason McCormick, one of our 4th rounders this year, stepping in from time to time. They've done a solid job. Like I said, Troy Fatanu is out for the remainder of the regular season. So Broderick Jones, our first rounder last year, will have to start at right tackle again. I know one of our tight ends, Michael Pruitt, will be out. We run a ton of 12, 13, 14 personnel. Arthur Smith is in love with his tight ends. That's all he uses is the tight ends, especially in the ground game. So one of our best blocking tight ends will be out. I'll note that because he hasn't participated all week. Otherwise, we should be fully healthy in that regard. Anyone else? Yeah, like Highsmith will be out. Warren will be out. So those are some game changers, but I think we have the depth to really make up for the injuries.
Yeah, some injuries for the Colts. I mean, it's going to be rough because, Kwity Paye might potentially be out this week. We're already, like you said, down to DeForest Buckner. But, it's kind of funny because I hate saying it, but, when DeForest Buckner went out, the last 6 quarters have been the best 6 quarters the Colts have had defensively without DeForest Buckner in there, which is actually pretty crazy. again, that has nothing. I'm sure that has nothing to do with DeForest Buckner specifically, but in the last 6 quarters, the Colts have only given up about 90 yards rushing because they seem to have finally found a recipe that's working for them. But still, to lose Kwity Paye, because we already lost Ebukam to start the year, and he was our main returning defensive end, and now we might lose Kwity for this one. And the big one, too, is we may be without a nickelback this week. Kenny Moore and Chris Lamons, who are both of our nickels, have not practiced at all this week. And there's a legitimate chance that Kenny might not play either. And he's our best corner. So, that definitely would be a big blow if he can't play. I don't know what the Colts would do in replacement of that, but we'll just have to keep an eye on it. I mean, tomorrow is really going to dictate what happens here. I mean, I always used to say, like, DeForest Buckner during the season could not practice one time and deal with a lingering injury all year. He would still play every Sunday if he could, but he finally met an injury that he just can't play through. So yeah, that is definitely going to be interesting for that. Another interesting one too. I got to look it back up. Yeah. The good thing is for us is Braden Smith, our right tackle, did full participate in practice today, which is huge because last year you guys played against us when Braden Smith wasn't healthy. Thankfully, TJ Watt didn't make a huge difference in that because the Colts actually made a point to make sure that they, triple teamed him all the time.
Right.
But even if Braden Smith is healthy enough to go in this game, you still got to do the same thing because, again, TJ Watt is a menace. And for Anthony Richardson specifically, you need to be able to keep him at bay and allow Anthony Richardson to sit in the pocket and make those throws. And if they don't, then, that's going to definitely be interesting for us. So Braden Smith is an interesting one. If he doesn't go, I'm very, very, very nervous about what TJ Watt may do to us on Sunday because I don't know who our right tackle would be at this moment. All I know is they're not going to be good enough.
Would it be, didn't Blake Freeman play last year right tackle in that game?
Yeah, Blake Freeland, I think, did. And originally he was going to be that guy again this year, but I think who would take over is the rookie right tackle, Matt Gonsalves, who we drafted in the 3rd round this year. I think he would get that if Braden Smith for some reason couldn't go. Yeah, either way, it doesn't matter if it's Braden Smith or Matt Gonsalves at all. You have to make sure you have tight end help. We got to put Mo Ali Cox over there all the time. You got to make sure that he's chipping and keeping outside contain for Braden Smith as well. Force TJ Watt to go inside where the big boys are at. And, that's where you can control him the best. But, we'll keep an eye on that. But I asked you about your run game. Now about the Colts run game.
Yeah.
As I said earlier, JT he's around 300 yards on the season, just about 2 back-to-back really good games for the Colts. And clearly that's the direction in which you need to go to be able to keep this offense rolling. And, was one of the big reasons why the Colts were able to beat you guys last year. Those even when we didn't have JT in that game.
Yeah.
Trey Sermon had his best game of his NFL career and had, like 12 rushes for 80 something yards. And, they were able to move the ball down the field that way. I mean, how do you feel going up against JT, who is actually healthy now? And, this run offense that's really finding its groove.
Yeah, I feel like JT's back on his 2021 path. He's the guy they're going to lean on. He's healthy. He's ready to go. I feel like y'all got a decent line behind him. I'll say this about the Steelers defense. I think it is one of the best, if not the best in the league. We slowed down JK and the Chargers last week, and we know how explosive they were to start off the year. I'll say this, though. JT is a much better running back than JK. I know they came from the same draft class. They're arguably 1 and 2 or whatever order from that draft class. But JT is just a different beast. When he's on, he's on. He's one of the best in the league. I feel like this is another great test for the Steelers defense just to see how truly legit they are. They're already legit enough. But if they are able to slow down JT, if they're able to stop Jonathan Taylor and limit him to do almost nothing or slow him down enough, I think that's huge, because I feel like our front seven has never been stronger. This is the best front seven I think the Steelers have had in a couple years now. Everyone's healthy, thankfully, knock on wood. Everyone's healthy. Our linebackers have the depth. Hayward's playing great football. We got a lot of guys on the defensive line. Watt is a beast. Herbig, opposite of him, who will be starting, is a beast. We got the guys to slow him down, man. I anticipate the Steelers definitely stack the box, on run obvious downs. They're really going to try to limit Taylor as much as they can. It'll be interesting to see how the Colts try to match that up. Maybe they do a lot of play action. Richardson with his arm could very well get some big impact plays with that. It's going to be a great matchup. In regards to the Steelers and Taylor, this is a big test for him. I'm very interested to see it.
Yeah, and especially for a Colts offensive line that's also better than any offensive line that you faced also.
Yeah.
I mean, even I know J.K. Dobbins has been electric, but I mean, at the same time, that Chargers O-line isn't quite up to speed yet either. The Colts offensive line, this is a unit that's had 4 or 5 years of a bunch of these guys on it together. So they're all seasoned vets, and they're ready to come in and smack them in the mouth. It's kind of funny because I look at the defensive numbers for you guys, and it's funny because your 2 safeties lead the way for you guys in overall tackles to start the year, which is kind of funny because our safety, Nick Cross, also leads our team in tackles right now. And believe it or not, actually leads the NFL in tackles through the first 3 weeks. He has 39 tackles. He has more tackles than your 2 starting safeties combined to start the year. Now, we obviously know the reason this is because the Colts defense has been so trash to start the year that, we end up having to rely on our safeties to be the ones to make tackles because our linebackers were terrible, which is also funny because, again, Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed are number 3 and 4 on the tackle list as well. The Colts have 3 of the top 5 tackling leaders in the entire NFL so far, and that's mainly because the defense doesn't get off the field, so it's bad. They don't get off the field very much. And also the Colts don't sustain long drives very well. So it's either big play or bust when it comes to the offense right now. So they either go 3 and out or they score within like 5 plays. And then, the defense is right back on the field. But it's definitely funny looking at that because, yeah, your defense, not a lot of guys with, huge tackle numbers, but I also remind myself that, your defense is so good at getting off the field so quickly. I mean, it's really insane.
Yeah, that's a big add. See, it's funny that you mentioned like time of possession and your guys' offenses. They can't really find a balance there and keeping the defense off the field and keeping them well rested. God, does that remind me of the past couple of years watching Steelers football? The defense was on the field countless times. It was 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and it was an issue. Now, thankfully, the defense is forcing 3 and outs, and the offense is sustaining tons of time of possession. They're keeping the defense well rested, which is why I think we're as healthy as we are through 3 weeks. And the one great thing about our defense is many of our defensive backs, like Elliott, like Minka, like Dante Jackson, like JPJ, they're all very good at making tackles, and they all play around the line of scrimmage, and they're not afraid to make tackles before the linebackers. Like they'll make the plays before anyone else does. The defensive line will do their job at filling the gaps or closing any lanes, and then everyone in the back will do the rest. It's great. One thing I want to note about your defense, Yeah, I didn't know that about Nick Cross. That's kind of astonishing. But
Yeah.
that also takes me back to when our defense had a similar issue. I think Minka at one point led the team in tackles for 2 straight years or something along those lines. He had over 100 tackles at one point because the defense couldn't get off the field. And they kept allowing big plays in the secondary. And Minka had to be what we used to call the janitor. He had to do cleanup duty because everyone below him were trash at that point. And the one thing about your secondary is you guys have allowed a lot of big plays, a lot of them. In fact, I think every single game so far this year, you guys have allowed a gain of 30 or 40 or more. So that's a little concerning on your part, but I think the Steelers offense could take advantage of that.
Oh yeah, this Colts defense definitely is no stranger to giving up big plays. Thankfully we started to finally turn the tide against Chicago, but at the same time, again, that's Chicago. We can't really say much. So, we'll go with it and see what we got. I mean, this is going to be a great matchup between these two teams. Real quick. So let's go special teams real quick, and then we'll do a score prediction.
Okay.
Special teams wise, how have you felt about the unit as a whole so far this year?
Very good. Our kicker Boz, he single-handedly won us week 1. 6 field goals. He's been almost perfect outside of the 60-something yarder he tried last week, which I felt like was more of a bad hold than anything because he had the distance. We have a new punter because our original punter got hurt in week 1. Corliss Waitman, he stepped in. We've had no issue with that, replacing him or using him as a replacement. I feel like our kick returners could be a little better. Calvin Austin had a great game receiving-wise, but so far as a returner, he's just not using the speed. He's not as explosive as I thought he'd be, but as far as that, I think our special teams unit is delivering on many aspects. I think they're very well trusted.
Yeah, I wish I could say I felt better about our special teams unit. Our kicker, Matt Gay, has been inconsistent again this year to start because he's been dealing with injuries. Dude, I got so mad before we get into our score prediction. Dude, I got so mad at Anthony Gould, who is our kick returner, in the last game because it was 2:01 left in the game. It's a 1-score game, and Chicago is kicking it off to us. Mm-hmm. There's 2 minutes and 1 second left, and they had 1 timeout. So you're sitting there and you're telling yourself, hey, like, if I catch this, I should return it. Because if I can knock off that 2-minute warning, then the Chicago Bears can't use it as a timeout.
Right.
Anthony Gould catches it. He kneels it. He caught it in the end zone and he kneeled it. And I'm flabbergasted on my stream. And I'm just like, am I stupid? Like, am I stupid? Am I thinking that, or does time not come off for the kick returns anymore? Like, what's going on here? And everyone was telling me, no, you're not stupid. I don't understand what he just did. And, Shane Steichen took the blame on it. It's like, yeah, that's my fault. I should have made sure that he knew that. Like, yeah, I blame the player and the coach. The fact that neither one of you knew the situation of that has me so infuriated, because that could have almost cost the Colts the game had Chicago been able to stop JT on that next drive. Thankfully, they didn't, and we ended up, running for a first down, so ultimately it didn't matter. But it could have cost us the game, potentially, all because you could have just ran it. But, again, it's the stupidness of some of these plays that happen. I can't get around it. So it is what it is. But all right. I appreciate you coming on here, man. Let's get a final score prediction here from you.
All right. I'm going to go with the Steelers. I'm going to be a little bit of a homer here. I'm going to go Steelers. I think they go 4-0. I really love the matchup for the offense. I think they can really, what they've been hinting at is break the dam. Or the dam's about to break. So I think this is the game they could really do it. That Colts defense is really poor. So if there's a game they could really start opening everything, they've had the last 3 weeks to get comfortable. This is it for the offense. This is it for Fields and them. I love the matchup. The defense, you always trust the defense. I still think it's low scoring just based on that. I think it's still going to be defensive. Maybe the offense underestimates the Colts a little bit. Maybe the Colts defense adjusts through the first 3 weeks. So I'm still going to go with the under. And so far, I believe every Steelers game this year has been the under, I believe. So keep that in mind. Score prediction, I'm going to go Steelers win 23-16. I think it's close.
All right. Well, I'm definitely gonna go with the Colts. Them winning this last week has revitalized my faith just a little bit, you know. So I think, like you said, I think it's gonna be a very low scoring game. I think it'll be a close game. I think the Colts win it 20-17.
Okay.
So it'll be close, but I do have the under. But again, guys, this stream was powered by BetUS, so shout out to them. Be sure to check out BetUS today, guys, and get started on that. Take advantage of that promo. And again, thank you to Dan from Steel Twins for coming over here and spreading some Steelers knowledge on this channel. Dan, again, really greatly appreciate you coming on here and doing this with us. And yeah, we'll definitely look to get you back on here again, man.
Oh, definitely. Steelers and Colts are always they're always competing. A lot of great, rich history. Always great to be on, and for you to invite us, it's always a pleasure. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely, man. Well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Let us know your thoughts on this upcoming matchup. Thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, go Colts.